A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome to some more Nerf Secret Revealed Aftersought Part 2. And now, let's just explain a little bit about some newer series out there when it comes to Nerf. As I've discussed before, when it comes to other lineups that Nerf had managed to start over the past 10 years, they've gotten rather creative. They've been able to push a lot of boundaries, exceed a lot of expectations, and really pull off some daring feats that we never thought would be possible. And this is pretty much one of them. And so, I present to you the Rush 40, which was one of 3 different blasters that had been released during the first year of what was known as the Hyper line. And so you can pretty much look on the side here. This is pretty much the Hyper placard, which is visible on both sides. And this color scheme, pretty much, is an impressive combination of orange, highlighter green, clear, white, light gray, as well as cerulean blue. It really gives you quite a nice feel as opposed to what the color scheme of most other blaster lineups do have. But if there's one thing that we ought to know about this lineup, it'd be the kind of ammo that it uses. This is what's known as a Hyper round. Now, I know I keep calling it Hyper, but in past years I've referred to this as the Keen line because way back in the day, Nerf actually made a Hyper line. More specifically, it was called the Hyper Sight lineup, and that was of course around the 90s. Blasters like the Expand-A-Blast, Lock and Load, Range Shot, and some others were in fact a part of that line. And even though it didn't run very long, it still is in fact under a lot of cult following even to this day. So of course, I refer to this as the Keen line because can't make a Hyper line twice, pretty much, in violation of a lot of patents and perhaps a lot of trademarks. But in any case, I probably should also mention the fact that this sight line pretty much came with its own pair of safety glasses. But let's just say for once that unfortunately this is not going to be the case for today. Normally you'd see me wearing them while talking about these blasters for added safety and the like. You'll be seeing this again and again in future videos with this blaster. But you know what though? I'm pretty confident that I follow each and every bit of safety as it is in fact possible for me to not let myself get injured by any and all means. But, like a good number of blasters, this one is primed simply by a top slide in which you just noticed. There's a hopper in which it includes a door back here that you can access to load up to 40 rounds. And so, if you think that that's a lot, then well, just take a look at many other blaster lines like the Rival lineup. They have blasters in there that can pretty much have way more than 40 rounds at once. And hopper blasters are pretty much some of the biggest that you might find when it comes to capacity. Like the Prometheus, which can hold an astounding 256 rounds. That seems to be the full potential, and yet it's another blaster that I might have to talk about someday. But at this point in time, the Rush 40 does, in fact, have plenty of things to offer. And so, by all means, I'm not necessarily assuring that everybody should go ahead and pick one of these up. Because let's just say that the lineup itself has actually been under a little bit of fire. Well, I feel like that there's a reason for that I just discovered right now. Because first of all, it does take a lot of effort to try and get the rounds to go crawl into this little cavity you see over here underneath this tactical rail. This is where the rounds will fall into the breach, and you can pretty much only fit one of these at a time. Some people have tried to buckshot them, but okay, that one fired properly. So I feel like that was pretty much the last round I got. But I feel like another big thing out there as well, I just fired a few rounds, and each of them, believe it or not, if you really did the math right there, depending on what you can actually get in terms of refill packs. They come in the form of canisters, and there are canister sets that include 100 round canisters, which are about this long pretty much. They can hold 100 rounds each, and they have a hook end that can actually clip onto the top of this blaster. So there's a tack rail right here, there's a tack rail right here, one here, and one underneath the handguard. I've always had a bit of a disregard when it comes to handguard based tack rails, but at this point in time it started to become so common that it probably doesn't matter by this point. It just seems more like a minor complaint to some people, but yeah. So now the blaster is officially empty. I've emptied pretty much the whole blaster by this point, except for a few rounds just so I could showcase it firing in action, but now I feel like that it's time to showcase the true part of Aftersought episodes, the demonstration of the Invisibullet in action. And so, just for right now, we're gonna load one round into the chamber right here, and then we're basically going to see how that works. Well, you know what? I'm pretty much just showing a lot of stuff here. And it might seem repetitive to some of you, but let's just say that because next year is when I'm going to be putting together a nice collaboration of events featuring illegally mounted blasters like this. So you'll be seeing the Invisibullet in a lot of new pieces of action. Some things out there are worth telling, while others are best left in history. The Rush 40 is probably one of those that I might consider to be left behind in history for a long time. If someone does in fact have their hands on one of these and is willing to in fact try to resell them, then I'd suggest that you probably wait a little bit longer, because it turns out the value for these is not quite at the point where it would be considered rare. Especially when considering the fact that the lineup itself was a bit of a bomb when it comes to new lineup showcases, and Nerf has in fact managed to tank a lot of other things out there in 2021. So I'm more than glad that we are well rid of that point in our history. But aside from all that, the years of 2022, 2023, and here in 2024, they're probably not so much better by any means. Each and every one of them has a lot of good things out there, a lot of bad things. And I feel like that some things in between are also out there, which doesn't necessarily narrow it down much further. But yeah, this is basically my take on the Rush 40 from the Hyper line, or I'm just calling it the Keen line. And just as a matter of fact out there are two other blasters that were released in the line in 2021. And as for anything else that has come out in this line, well, let's just say it didn't quite make it too far. But yet, this is pretty much the first that had started it all. And so with that in mind, if you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.